And a great big Friday. Thank God it's Friday. And how's everybody doing today on this wonderful Friday? Welcome to the Cabin Fever podcast. As my music just went like all of a sudden and quickly disappeared on me. I was kind of in the moment there. Hopefully you're having a great day today. How's your Friday going? I hope it's going well. It is Friday, June the 26th. Can you believe we're already wrapping up June? It'll be the 4th of July here in just a couple of days, and a few more than a couple. But anyway, thank God it's Friday, and I don't know if anybody remembers that song. You guys, I'm joined right now by Jody and Luke, and Luke is back with us after a little hiatus.
I'm back.
He's back, and so he's back. He was had a little bit of a car issue, and thank God we were able to get it back. But either one of you remember that song from the 70s?
It's Friday night.
Yeah, no, not that one. That's
no, that one.
That's Montel Jordan. I know you're going to be impressed that I know that. I'm talking about the old 70s song that was "Thank God It's Friday." Nobody?
I don't
Nobody?
even remember that.
You don't remember that?
Nope.
Well, you're a good Christian girl from the 70s.
Exactly.
Love and Kisses, 1978. It was a movie, too. Donna Summer. Come on, nobody?
Well, I know Donna Summer. I just don't remember that.
Donna Summer, and it was kind of a comedy, disco type of thing. But anyway, thank God it is Friday. We got a lot to talk about today. I got a great show planned for you. My good friend, the worship and creative director at RHEMA Bible Church, is with us today, Dan Taylor. We'll be bringing him out here in just a few minutes. And Dan and I have had a long relationship, and it was fruitful. And so we're going to be talking about a lot of memories and a lot of things that we learned working with each other. And so we're going to talk about that today. But today, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about before we bring Dan out. This is a very special day for me, because Costco has announced that they're bringing back the free samples. Come on, somebody. Yeah, free samples are returning to Costco after the COVID-19 scare. Now, there's a lot of, not every Costco, but a lot of the Costcos are bringing back the free samples. They're not going to have the big sheet cakes anymore, which is disappointing.
Aww.
And each one of the samples are going to be individually wrapped and behind a plexiglass protectant.
Yeah.
So, but that's huge news. So the question for the day, right there underneath of where, and why don't you do before we ask the question of the day? Why don't you go ahead and share the podcast? Click that share button. Let somebody know about us. Tell them where you're watching from, and share it. Okay, share it. Help us get the word out about it. What is your favorite free sample at Costco? I'll start with you two. Do you guys have a favorite that you always look forward to when you go?
Free sample. I mean, I don't have a Costco card, so.
Well, you surely have been.
Yeah,
Sam's, Costco, same,
Sam's.
same
I
kind
mean,
of thing.
usually like the popcorn chicken or something like that.
Come on now, see? That's what I'm talking about. What about you? Okay.
I think maybe like the egg rolls, or if they make a mushroom stuffed something, that's good.
I know that we need to get your mic fixed, because
Yeah,
you
we
sound
do.
like you're buzzing in my ear. So,
Yeah.
So anyway, I like the little rolls, the little when they do the wraps with the ham and the
Yeah.
cheese and the sometimes the spinach and stuff in there.
Yeah.
But they wrap it up, and then they cut that wrap up in the little pinwheels. Is that what it's called? Yeah, pinwheels.
Yeah.
And so I really like the pinwheels. Of course, the pizza is amazing when you get the free pizzas. But the best of all the Costco free samples is, for me, the free bratwurst sausages.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Because
we
they,
do
you know
like
what, they cook them better there. They're never as good when you get home and cook them yourself.
Well, everything tastes better when you don't have to cook it.
But I don't know if it's what they're using to cook it in, or those little ladies that are cooking it. I don't know what it is. But man, when they make it at Costco, or Sam's, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, those little bratwursts. Whoa, I've bought many of those and then been disappointed when I got home and cooked them myself. So
it has been a long time since we've been able to go to a Costco or a Sam's, but my mom's and my tradition when we shop together at one of those stores is we always get a hot dog and a drink. And most of the time, because those hot dogs are so big, we share it. Well, I say that.
They are
We
pretty.
always talk about sharing.
Yeah, they're the
But
ballpark
that's kind of our
Frank.
tradition.
Yeah, the
so
big
if
ones,
Mommy is
yeah.
watching today.
Oh,
Just
well, that's
remember
nice.
that. I know the hot dogs aren't always good for you, but it's
yeah. Well, I mean, but
Exactly.
again, they taste better there.
they do, and they're $1.50.
I know. Well,
For that
I mean,
and a
yeah,
drink.
exactly.
I mean, come on.
So, what free samples would you be looking forward to when you go back and are able to get back into Sam's or Costco? What's the free sample that you're looking for? You remember a few days ago we talked about the pickled flavored Doritos.
Yeah.
And I saw a friend of ours posted herself with a bag of the pickled Doritos, and she was just saying how great they were.
Really?
So,
See, I love pickles and I love Doritos, but I don't know. I don't know. It might be something we need to try.
I don't know. All right. So, what else is going on? You guys had some other stuff that you found interesting to talk about today.
You have anything? No. You want to talk about that?
He's busy.
Okay. Well, I'll talk about one of the first things that we were looking up is that today in 1870 was the day that Christmas was declared a federal holiday.
Aww.
And I bring that up because I've seen people recently and even today that have, they posted, like, there was a husband that posted to his wife and said, okay, are we putting up the tree today? Not because of that, though, but it was like, everything's so weird. We were just talking like, okay, 2020, you can be over now. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of people ready to hit the fast forward button, aren't they? Yeah.
Let's have Christmas.
And let's get it over with.
Yep.
Yeah. So, how many years is that now? That's 150 years, right?
A lot of years.
Right. 1870 to 2020.
Yep,
Is that 50?
150.
150 years.
Yeah.
That Christmas has been a federal holiday in the
Yep.
United States.
Yep.
Amazing.
Today is the first day that they ever had a Grand Prix race.
Really?
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I guess the
What-
first Grand Prix was today.
Awesome. I had a Grand Prix in 1989. Different kind of Grand Prix. It was a car, but it was named after that race. I had a Grand Prix in 1989. But that's cool because the that racing circuit, is what keeps us all going. And racing has been in the news a lot the last week or so. The stuff with Bubba Watson and things like that. And so it all started 115 years, 14 years ago today.
And we know a few racers too.
Yeah.
Craig's son is a racer, right?
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. And Cameron Hagan, and then of course,
Nate's getting into
yeah,
racing.
yeah, Nate Compton, and there's just a lot of other folks that we know that are in the racing industry. So,
Yeah.
all right, today is also a kind of a sad day. Elvis Presley performed his last concert today in
Yeah.
1977. The King was retiring because he had to, because he was getting ready to leave the planet. So.
Right.
Today was his last concert in 1977. All right, one more thing, and I thought this was pretty cool. You guys were talking about this one. Anybody going to talk about it?
Oh.
Or should I? Yeah.
Oh,
Because of COVID and because of so much change going on, there have been a lot of folks that are, we talked about this the other day when we were talking about drive-in movies.
Yeah.
One of the largest Christian concerts in the world, the Creation concert event, it's usually called Creation Fest. This year, they're going to be doing everything online. June 26th and 27th, you'll be able to log on and watch the entire festival online. It's still going to be June 26th and 27th. It'll feature special appearances, exclusive live performances, and messages and classic footage from Creation over the years. Have you, either one of you ever been to Creation?
I haven't, but that's pretty cool that they're doing it all online.
Yeah.
I figure that's going to be the new normal eventually.
Yeah.
Well, I was looking yesterday, and there's a lot of bands that are doing live streams right now, like big bands.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about it last week when we were talking about drive-in movies making a comeback, that they're going to start doing live concerts at drive-in theaters. So they'll be, in a concert hall somewhere. And I think that actually will expose more people to the acts and to have that experience, because they'll be able to just, load up in their car and drive down to the drive-in theater and go in and see it. And I think that's real ingenuity right there.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
It really is.
Super cool.
Yeah, I love that people are doing that. It makes me happy to see, in the midst of doom and gloom and fighting and hatred and everything. And, that's bringing, things that we like to gather over. We like to gather and go to concerts.
Yeah.
It may be a different way, but, it brings joy to people's lives.
Yep. Yep. Some of the funnest memories I have from my younger days was at concerts, and and then being in youth ministry for 25 years, we did a lot of concerts, going and doing a lot of concerts ourselves,
Yes.
and having guests in and things like that. So, all right, we made an announcement on Wednesday that my new book, What Smells So Good: Living with Favor in a World That Stinks, was released. I want to thank all of you who did go and purchase this already on Amazon. If you want to go pick it up, you can pick it up on Amazon, or you can download it to Kindle, or you can go on iBooks. It's called What Smells So Good: Living with Favor in a World That Stinks, by yours truly. And thank you if you want to go out and get a copy of that. It is a book about favor, and man, it's an easy read. It's less than 100 pages. It's fairly thin, but it was just something that the Lord dealt with me about, and we preached a series on it here at our church in Orlando, and the Lord directed us to go ahead and write a book about it. So go ahead and pick a copy up if you can, and it'll bless you, I promise. All right, let's get to our guest today. Man, I'm so excited to have this guy on the program. He is a really good friend of mine for a number of years now, well over 10 years. We met in Oklahoma. I was the youth pastor at RHEMA Bible Church, and he was a student at the time. And he did a Christmas or Easter play. I think it was Easter. And he played a character called the Scat Man. And I kept calling him that. And I finally found out his name was Dan. And then it was really cool to realize that we were kind of from the same region of the country. I grew up in Ashland, Kentucky, which is the northeast corner. He grew up in Cincinnati, in the Cincinnati area, Midtown, Ohio, and Middletown, Ohio. And that's just a couple hours up the river from us. We started talking. We're both big, huge Cincinnati Reds fans. And then he came and started doing when I was doing youth ministry, he became the worship leader for the high school. And Dan and I started down this relationship of working together, and we were able to do so much with so many kids. And I don't want to get into it yet because I'm going to get him on here. So please welcome to the program my good friend Dan Taylor, everybody. Dan, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, man?
It's
you
good.
Doing all right?
Yeah, really good. You?
Doing wonderful.
We're gonna get at least 60 games of baseball in this year.
Yes.
Maybe the Reds won't screw it up too bad in 60 games. They're pretty good for a while, and then
the Reds got a chance now.
They got a chance, man. They got a chance. So, anyway, I've been gone away from there for 8 years now. Dan and I worked together for at least that long while we were there.
10.
Did we do 10 there?
It was for sure 10.
Yeah, I know it was early on when you came to start working with me, and then to watch Dan do what he did there, we were all about developing relationships with kids and stuff like that, and we took a group of ragtag young kids and turned them into a world-class worship band, and it was really under Dan's spearheadedness there. And as you can see by looking, and I'm just going to drop the revelation for all of you listening online, Dan is black.
Surprise.
Dun, dun, dun. So, but the point, what we really wanted to have Dan come on and talk about today is that it doesn't have to be an issue, and it was never an issue with us in all the stuff that we did, and we're going to get into all that stuff as we get on down the line. But let's just talk first of all about your mentality when you first started coming in there. I know we sat down and said, man, I told you I wanted to use as many kids as possible and develop that thing, but talk about what you were thinking when you were accepting that challenge to raise up a bunch of people.
Well, I think when we first started, one of the things that was interesting when we first started, of course, I don't know if you remember this, our first practice, we used to practice on a Tuesday, have service on a Wednesday. Our first practice, we get through our entire first practice. And at the end of our practice, our then drummer told me, hey, I have a gig. I'm not going to be there tomorrow. Like, this is my first day on the job.
I do remember that.
This is how the whole thing started. And so if we want to say development started from day one, that was the day we pulled Michael Staka, who was scared in his boots, coming all the way to be our drummer, who turned out to be one of the best drummers
A monster.
we've ever had on campus.
Yeah, he was a monster.
But it started with just the opportunity. And I think we found out from day one that one of the things that we were going to do was give people opportunity. And if they grew with that opportunity, they could be as good as they wanted to be.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how it started from day one. And I tell this story all the time. There was a period of time there where our band was still young. They were still learning what they were doing, and we were still trying to figure out what we wanted to do. And you came out of a summer blitz and you said, well, maybe we should look into doing something different. Maybe we should try out some other people. So we went through this tryout process, and we couldn't find anybody better than what we had. And then a year later, those, which were teenagers at that time,
That's right. Yep.
were just amazing. And that 1 year, they turned it to be the better one of the better bands on campus, if not one of the best, if not the best.
I was going to say that a lot of them went on to go ahead and play on the big stage over at RHEMA Bible Church. Some of them started going on the road with Pastor Hagen and Mrs. Hagen, and they became
a couple of them I still have with me now.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of them are still participating, and it is something that I talked to Keith Neighbor, who was my partner at the time. For those of you watching, and he was the junior high youth pastor. We sit back and smile a lot when we see the kids that we know that we helped raise them up, and they're still sitting there on the platform right now. So it's really awesome. So now listen, when Dan and I were working together, besides our love for the Reds, we both are very strong.
And Frisch is big boy too.
Oh man, don't even get me started. Every time I go back home now and I eat there, I always text him a picture of the tartar sauce. Right. So guess where I'm at. So, but Dan and I both have a really strong leadership style. We both know what we want to get done, what we want to do, and we've. Obviously, when you have a strong leadership style, we butt heads. We've butted heads a few times, and we were talking about this the other day. Really, one of the only times I can remember feeling uncomfortable, we were getting ready to do this drama, all drama nights. Yes. And I was like, because remember we used to do those all the time, and they were good because the kids would write their own skits, but we always were plagued with all these technical problems and things not working out. And so I decided I was going to direct it that night, and so I said, I want to do something different. I want you to come in, and I want the band to play in between. And it had what he ended up doing and what I was asking him to do during rehearsal didn't kind of line up right, and we had this, I don't like that. Well, I don't care if you don't like that kind of a thing. And that was the only time that I don't know how you felt, but that was the only time I felt uncomfortable. I was just really agitated about the whole thing. And I'm saying all that to say, in our relationship, and really, let's just call it what it was. At RHEMA is one of the leading ministries in the world. It's one of the one of the flagship movements around the world, especially in the Word of Faith camp. And so we were there. And we were working, and we have all these, things people are looking at, and our relationship doing the things that we did was never, ever a condition of your skin color or my skin color, right. any of our disagreements or anything. It was just two guys doing their job.
It was just work atmosphere is what it was.
That's right.
Just two people who had a common goal. And and we understood what we were trying to do and who we were ministering to. That the one thing that I think we always remembered is that we were in ministry, and so there were teenagers in the balance. There were people that we needed to reach, and that was way more important to us than any barrier, any racial barrier, but even any conflict we had. We could do a whole podcast session on the proper way to resolve conflict, because we never let anything come between what we were trying to accomplish.
Yeah. And maybe that's the next one. That's the future. We're going to do one on that one day, because we definitely had different opinions through our on how to do something or whatever. And it didn't mean that we didn't get angry. There were times that he would just be like, look, man, I can't talk to you right now. And it was just what it was. But because of what we really wanted to talk about today is because of what's going on in the country right now, there are so many people that are really, for the first time, I don't know how long, maybe it's the first time ever, that people are really starting to want and to encourage some harmony amongst the races right now. And I just thought what we talked about, and you did a beautiful post, that we could just kind of share that this is something that is entirely possible.
Exactly. It's the key to it is really us as individuals. I think a lot of times we make it bigger than it needs to be. We try to solve the world when in actuality, I have a problem with my neighbor. So it's like, let's not try to solve a bigger problem. Why don't I learn how to get along with the people that are in my world? Why don't I learn what's affecting the people in my world? And let's start there first, because it's a big ship to turn, man. It's a big issue to conquer, and we're not going to conquer it right away. It's going to take time and effort.
In your post that you did a few weeks ago, you were actually answering a question that was asked from a good friend of ours, Jeff Bardell, who's been on the program. You were just answering some questions that were there. And I want to give you a minute. And again, our guest today is Dan Taylor. He's the worship and creative director at RHEMA Bible Church and RHEMA Bible Training College in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Very good friend of mine for a lot of years. And your post, you really addressed three things, and we're going to have to just go through them fairly quickly, that I thought were just so excellent. So can you recap that for us?
Yeah, basically what Jeff's question, which I appreciated, and let me just say this first. One of the things I appreciated about Jeff's post, Facebook is a two-dimensional social media page. It's hard to solve racism on a Facebook post. It's deeper. There's more levels to it than that. But one of the very few posts that I saw that would create a reaction and cause me to actually respond was Jeff's post. And he asked a question, very simple question: what can I do? And so for me, that was great. It was great to be able to answer that question and to give three things. And the first of those three things was, one, keep asking questions. Everybody has an experience behind who they are and what they do. Keep asking questions. If the line of communication shuts down, we can never solve this. The second thing after asking questions was then to stop qualifying people according to their color. What we do is we take statements and we categorize and qualify people according to their color. Don't be afraid to use it. Again, a lot of people, you're trying to describe a person and you're afraid to say, oh, that black man over there, that African American man. Don't be afraid to describe it, but don't categorize me by it. Yeah. And then the last one really was just, if we're ever going to change anything, the greatest effective change we're ever going to have in anything is changing ourselves. And so if we want to have an effect on racism, I got to look inward. I got to figure out where it's at inside of me. And once I can figure out what's happening inside of me, that's the fastest change and the quickest and the most effective change that I can actually make. And so I covered those things. And then after covering those things, I said them as if I was a black man talking to a white man, understanding that we can cross that. However, it could be a white man talking to a Hispanic guy. It could be, a Native American talking to an Arab American. And any of those three things I mentioned can be done across any gender, any race.
Now let's back up just a little bit, because you said something that I think is very important when you said, don't categorize me, but don't be afraid to use my color as a description. And I know that there's a lot of folks that are so scared to even do that. They're scared to even say, hey, this black guy over there, his name is now. It's okay. What you're saying is it's okay to say what color they are, but not to put them, not to use the term black in a negative connotation to where you're going to lump them in to say, oh, there's a black guy over there.
Right. There are phrases, and you know what? Here's the reality of it, Brent. The reality of it is racism is been inbred in our country.
Yep.
And it's locked in through our laws and through our history, and so it's there. So there are some things that we do, and a lot of people don't like it when I say this, like, who's racist? Well, it's really impossible unless you're homeschooled amongst, a lot of different races. It's hard to not have it within your culture. There's certain things we just do and say within our culture that when you look at it, it's racist. And so what we do is we take those ideas and then we categorize these people according to their color or to their culture, and not really judging people by their character. And the example I used.
Yeah, I was going to say, use that example. Yeah.
Yeah, the example I used that day is, you're walking down the street and there's a black man walking down the street. I can't guarantee you that he's not going to mug you or he's not going to try to do something to you. But I can guarantee you that if he does, it has nothing to do with the color of his skin.
So good.
Everything to do with his character.
That is so good, Dan. And so many people have not been able to differentiate between the two.
Yeah. And sometimes even unbeknownst to us, we judge people according to that qualification without trying to figure out that it's more of a character thing and not a color thing.
Yeah, I know, being raised up in northeastern Kentucky, rednecks everywhere, and I don't mean that in a negative way, because I've got a little redneck in me. Come on, and the thing is though, is I know people that are as country as all get out, and I can't tell you whether or not they would rob a store or not.
Right.
It has nothing to do with them being white or redneck or white trash or whatever whatever term we want to put on ourselves. Right. It has everything to do with the culture, and that's the part I think so many people are missing.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this: you grew up in Flatwoods, Kentucky. What's the population of black people in Flatwoods, Kentucky?
When I was growing up, 0. I mean, we didn't have any. Yeah.
So you could imagine if a person's coming out of Flatwoods, Kentucky, and they're going up to the big city of Cincinnati, and you walk into Cincinnati, and you've grown up in Flatwoods, Kentucky, and you've never seen a black person before. Well, of course, there's going to be some kind of reaction to that. There's going to be some kind of, and the other side of this, Brent, is we have to have some sensitivity to understand that person too. Understand that there's a person who grew up in a town. If you grew up in Montana, do you know Montana has 400,000 people, exactly. 4% black. Yeah. So, like, if you're in Montana, you can literally live there your whole life and never see a black person. Mm-hmm. And so to think that person should understand the plight or what happens to a black man or another minority.
Yeah, any of them, yeah.
Then that's there's a lack of understanding there. And so we have to back down some of our sensitivity too to some of the things that are being said and be more in a place of education and not in a place of condemnation.
Man, that's so good. That's so good. I think what I think you're telling folks is so important is that it's what Dr. King said. You're judging people by the content of their character and not by the color of their skin. Yeah. And it's so awesome. Our guest today is Dan Taylor, very, very close personal friend of mine. His wife, Chris, is very close to Jody. They used to watch Preston and Peyton when they were younger, and now they're proud parents themselves. And so,
yes, we are.
And so, as you can tell, the character that runs through Dan is just impeccable and is just awesome. And that's why I can stand up and look back at our relationship with such pride, is that there was never an issue of what color you were for anything that we were doing there. Yeah. And so it's a real source of, I mean, at the time it wasn't like we were planning that either. It's not like, I've got to treat Dan, differently. And it was just Dan is Dan. Right. And so that's why we're really trying to just show folks that are really new to this. I know that I've talked to many people that just go, what can we do? What should we be doing? And I just try to say, treat folks like you would treat anybody that
treat people like people.
Yeah, like you want to, and like you want to be treated, and it doesn't matter what color they are. So, Man, Dan, it really does. It means a lot that you take the time to come on the program today. I know Fridays are kind of a slow day for you, but and I'm glad that it is so that we could do this. And we were trying to do this last weekend, but Father's Day kind of threw a little bit a wrench in that. So anyway.
But I want you to know I enjoyed that program because I realized that I met all those guys. Well, of course, I met your dad for many times, but I met your other two uncles because Access Worship Band went on a Bailey tour, and we actually did a concert in Flatwoods, and then turned around and went to Virginia and did one there too. So I got a chance to meet both of those uncles. So
I know that. I feel like regularly every time I open up Facebook, especially around the summertime, a memory is popping up. From when we released this album, or we were doing this on this, or we were on this missions trip, or we were on this thing. And
right.
Bro, man, it was such an awesome thing to be able to stand arm in arm and shake the gates of hell like we did. It was just an awesome time. And we couldn't be prouder and happier for you now that your new position there at RHEMA. You followed after Rich King, who had set the bar really high there.
He did.
But man, you're doing such a great job, and we watch. We watch the replays and things like that because we're in church. When the morning services are going on. But I said it for a long time. Dan's the best at what he does, and we couldn't be happier for you, buddy.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you.
And so as we let you go today, give our love to Chris and give our love to your little guy.
She's probably watching.
Yeah, I know. She actually shared it. I saw that she shared it on there. So right there on his right there on the screen, you can see the information. If you want to reach out or follow Dan or whatever, you can go to rhema.org, or you can follow him on Facebook at Conrad Dan Taylor, or on Instagram and Twitter at Conrad D Taylor. And you can reach out to him.
To stay focused because YouTube channel's coming soon. So
it is, and you're making on. Hey, and before I let you go, when I do let you go and we go to close the program, stay on the line for a minute because I need to talk to you after we're off the air. Okay. All right. That's Dan Taylor, everybody. Thanks a lot for coming on the show. We'll see you soon. All right, that's Dan Taylor, everybody, Worship and Creative Director at RHEMA Bible Church and RHEMA Bible Training College in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're going to wrap it up for the show today. I pray that you go out and you have a great weekend today. This weekend, there's a lot of stuff going on. Be careful. This is the last weekend before we get to the 4th of July, so there's going to be a lot of folks traveling, a lot of folks out on the freeway, so be careful as you go. Monday on the program, I've got an outstanding guest coming on. His name is Lyle Wells, and he is a behaviorist and executive coach, and he's going to help you to figure out some stuff about yourself. We're going to put some tools in your hands that can help you to figure out some things about your leadership style, your business leanings, and things like that. So join me on the program on Monday. We got a lot of great shows slanted for you next week as well. I've got Jeffrey Paul, the founder of Wigs for Kids. I'm trying to think. Do you remember off the top of your head who else we have? Okay, well, I can't remember who we have for next Friday, but we got it. It's another great show, I'm sure. And then, I just am so thankful for all of you who are listening, sharing the podcast, and being patient with us through our branding change that has already started. Just little things you don't know yet, but you're getting ready to. We're going to unveil some things in the very near future for the Cabin Fever podcast. We love you guys so much. Have a great rest of your day. Get outside and break the cabin fever. We'll see you next week, everybody.